been sent some amazing brushes to try out, so thank you to Fuumuui for that. And what I'm going to do is do a little bit of mark making, just show you what these brushes do, and then let's put them into practice in a painting. And I was thinking, what sort of painting could I do? And then I thought of the work of Hundertwasser, who was an Austrian painter, and I'm going to emulate some of his work because I think these will be perfect. This is the landscape that I came up with, inspired by a local walk I do. These watercolour brushes are the workhorses of any studio or painting setup. Just a few is all you need because there is no such thing as a magic paintbrush. But if these are the workhorses, these that I have here are the circus trick ponies. These are the ones that gallop around the ring with feathers on their heads and sequins. And I've been sent some weird and wonderful brushes to try out. I want to show you what they do, what we could use them for, and you can make up your mind whether you need a one-trick pony in your bag as well as those workhorses. Now, the ones that really caught my eye when they arrived were these comb brushes, but equally well, look at these. These are flat comb brushes. Looks like something's been having a good chew on those. And I couldn't resist using these ones first. These flat comb brushes, set of 3, are £24. And I thought, oh my goodness, what would I use those for? When would I need to be able to draw flat parallel lines in either a single colour or multicolours? And the thing that really sprang to mind, the artist David Hockney, in his latter years, in all his wonderful self-portraits, used to be wearing a very checked jacket, and I thought it would be perfect for checked tablecloths and checked jackets. So you can do small regular marks, you can do parallel lines, you can do wavy parallel lines. You can also do circles if we have a steady hand, steady-ish hand. So what a bizarre and amazing brush. It's a synthetic bristle, and you have either the 7, the 5 or the 3 parallel. If you press harder, I should have done a bigger piece of paper, they do get closer, virtually join up the strokes. A similar idea, but not as regular, are these flat comb brushes. In this set there are 5, from this really wide one, which is 1.5 inches wide, right down to this little one, which is just 1/4 of an inch. And that set comes in at £31. Again, there is synthetic bristle. Gives you a parallel mark, but not as regular. And of course, if you press harder, it will actually all merge again. I'm rather excited by the idea of being able to load, say, half the brush with one colour and half the brush with another, and then have different colours in that stroke. Rather interesting, but it's a bit more organic than these ones. What it might be, of course, very good for is grass strokes and fur strokes, depending on which one you choose. Moving along, this is the Filbert Grainer, and these 5 brushes again is £31, and it's a synthetic hair, and it really does look a little like the moth has been at it. It hasn't, but you've got a sort of reservoir where it's full hair here, and then it goes into finer long hairs. So once you've actually dipped them in your paint, it holds an awful lot, but you get very fine marks at the end. Let's grab one. So you can see that it clumps, and I guess you can separate it out if you need finer marks. Again, I could see this being used for fur, for grasses, for really adding texture to a painting. And again, if you press hard, everything comes together. Press lightly and we get these far more random marks, and it does look like the grain of wood, hence being called a grainer. These two wash brushes really caught my eye. The binding is like a traditional Japanese hake brush, but with this short handle, and it feels beautiful in your hand. The smaller one, I believe, is £12. This one is 14. It is a natural hair, so if you want to avoid using natural hair, this is not for you. I would imagine that it is goat hair. Hakes usually are goat hair. It really picks up a lot of fluid, so great for washes or wetting your paper. And I like that short handle because you could pop that in a bag and take it out if you were out and about. I could imagine sitting on a beach doing a seascape with this. This small watercolour brush set really caught my eye as well when it came. Again, these are a natural hair, some sort of squirrel hair, and they've got sandalwood handles. When they are dry, they look very floofy. Let's put them in some water. We've got a little flat. We've got a sword, so it's solid up to there and then tapered off to one side. We've got a dagger, which is just a shorter version of the sword, and then we've got this oval. Because they are squirrel, they don't have the snap. Can you see that it tends to stay where you've put it? So I think they are a trickier brush to use. If you're a beginner, having that snap helps you be more in control. But these are great, say this dagger, because you can do, which way should we do it? You can do very thin marks with the top, and then broader, really expressive marks with the whole brush. They are fantastic for doing something like the tail feathers of a cockerel, where you need to go thick to thin in a wonderful sweeping motion. The oval again could be great for the ends of feathers. Look at that lovely mark. The sword is just like the dagger, but on steroids. And of course the flat is flat. If you're ready to move on to a slightly more challenging brush that's very expressive, if you do lots of florals, I think that would be a really interesting set. And I wanted to introduce you to travel brushes, because one option we have if we're out urban sketching or on holiday is to use something like this, which is a water brush. You simply take the bottom off, you put your water in there. They always screw on the wrong way, which really tends to confuse people. You squeeze here, the water comes out, and then you can paint with it. But they're a nylon hair and they tend not to come to nice points. They are cheap and cheerful, but really, really useful. The alternative is to have something like this as a travel brush, and this is definitely a considerable step up. Both ends come off here, and we've got a wooden handle inside a metal case, and here this is a cat's tongue. I'll show you the mark it makes. So it's flat but pointed and is lovely for that sort of mark making. The other end of this one, we have another dagger. So again, it's flat, but rather than having that regular point of the cat's tongue, it's offset to one side. And again, beautiful for these organic, lovely, expressive marks. If you are using them, I would suggest making sure they dry properly before you put them away, or, you know, when you get back, open them up, let them dry before you store them. On this one, we have got a standard round at one end. There you go. But at the other end, we have something very interesting. This is an extended point brush. So it's like a round, but it comes to a really fine point. So you've got all the fluid capacity of the hairs down here, but that fine point at the end. So if you need very long, very fine lines that go on forever, this is an amazing brush, but you can also do really interesting marks with it. You are that floral painter and you like to do detail, an extended brush may be your new best friend. And then the final two on here is a little flat, just as we've seen before. And the other end is what they've called a feather flat, which is quite similar to that filbert grainer. Let me just grab one of those. So rather than being arched across like that filbert is, it's a flat across there. So perfect for those little details, the fur, the feathers, the grass, the textures. So this little travel set is so good that I would use it in the studio. I wouldn't save it just for travelling. Well, that was a yomp through the brushes that I intend to use, and now let's get on to the painting. I wanted to use all the motifs that Hundertwasser used and the complementary colours and all those spirals and wavy lines. I've got a piece of £140 knot surface watercolour paper here, just about 30 centimetres by 30 centimetres. I've been inspired by my morning walk along the river. Hundertwasser used all sorts of motifs in his work. He didn't like straight lines. He used spirals, he used natural elements, but combined with man-made elements in the environment. So what I've done, these circles here, I've masked off with masking fluid so I can do some work behind it. And I am going to use this little wash brush to put this in, which is going to be my river. And I'm using the little flat travel brush, and I want to pick up different colours of yellows on my 5 comb brush and put in these marks. And these are inspired by the landscape at the moment. It's so dry where I live. We're actually in a state of drought and all the fields are dry and yellow rather than green. By twisting the brush, you can get really interesting marks, and by dipping it in different colours, you can certainly vary the mark too. I might be using some of these really weird and wonderful brushes, but there's always a place for just the everyday, and I'm putting in the sky. The sky in this is red because of the heat that we're experiencing. I'm not sure Hundertwasser would have approved of anything too regular, so I'm using this comb brush to break up some of the very parallel stripes. I never paint like this, so this is really quite a challenge for me, but it's a great way of trying out these brushes. So this is where that flat brush comes into its own. And if you've got totally new brushes or new materials, maybe painting in an utterly alien way might not be a bad idea, because then you'll see what they can do and how they might, I don't know, bring an extra dimension to your work rather than just doing the same old thing. You may discover something rather wonderful. While that's drying, I want to put in the bridge, and I'll just use a round brush for this. We don't need anything clever. So Hundertwasser often put in motifs of houses, windows. He was an architect as well as a painter, I thought this bridge would be very appropriate. And something that regularly appeared as a motif in his work were eyes and the human form. So I've just hidden a few in here. And I think he was talking about how we as humans relate to our environment. And these red marks are inspired by the reed beds that I see as I walk along. Now I'm going to work on those stylised trees, remove all that masking fluid and put on some background colour. I'm grabbing the 3 brush again, and I am going to come round. These brushes are quite small, they don't actually hold that much fluid, so it does run out. And using the smaller comb brush, I might put slightly random marks in and just wet some of those down. I'm just going to layer up some of these marks using that little flat travel brush. My plan is to go in with acrylic markers, do some of that mark making and really get some pops of colour, because Hundertwasser used all sorts of complementary colours. I've got these acrylic markers from Meaden. They're dual ended, so you've got slightly different colours at each end, and that's what I'm going to use. You could use Posca pens, any acrylic marker you've got. I really enjoy brush pens for mark making because you can use the side to get these sort of petal shapes, the tip to get a very fine mark, and you can do broad areas as well. So the idea is to just work very intuitively and add more marks and more layers to this little mixed media piece. I'm putting in a few complementary purple marks here to indicate the Himalayan balsam, which is really invading along the river. Hundertwasser worked in multiple layers. I'm just doing a little mark making, a little layering, just to get the feel of it, because after all, what we were really here for is to see how those brushes worked. The final thing I'm going to do in my little exploration is put on some gold ink. I've got some Kuretake gold mica ink. Just put it in a little needle bottle, which I hope, let's check. No, that isn't blocked, good. And you can draw with this, which is really rather lovely. And Hundertwasser was influenced by Klimt, and we think of the wonderful way that Klimt used gold, and Hundertwasser did use metal leaf in his sort of work. So again, just working really intuitively. Just go careful if you're using it like this, because the ink, it goes on thick, so it will be very easy to smudge. You're going to have to wait for a while for it to all dry. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know a bit more about Hundertwasser and his work. Do go and have a look. It's so joyous. And I hope you've enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about some of these absolutely amazing brushes.